Hi, everybody. Teresa from Dodge Nature Center, and time for another Nature to Go. Now you're looking at this and you're thinking, yep, Halloween. We're down to less than a week until it's Halloween. And one of those animals that's associated with Halloween are bats. We see all kinds of imagery in Hollywood and on TV, things to do with bats. And though there's a lot of information out there that's not really accurate when it comes to bats. So what's great is this week is also a celebration of Bat Week, where there's lots of different organizations that are sharing information to help educate everybody about what bats are really like. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you some questions about bats and see if you know the information. Are you ready? Let's play. First question. How many kinds of bats does Minnesota have? I'll give you a couple of seconds here to think of the answer. What did you guess? Did you know we have 8 kinds of bat? Now, for a long time, we had 7, but recently, in the last couple of years, a new bat called the evening bat has been discovered in Minnesota. It was a female, and she was lactating, which meant she must have had pups nearby, which was pretty exciting. All right, next question. What is Minnesota's most common bat? It's not what you might think. Now, for a long time, it was the little brown bat, but recent surveys have shown the big brown bat is the most common bat we have in Minnesota. It's also one of our larger bats. All right, next question. True or false? All of Minnesota's bats hibernate in the winter. What do you think? Well, the answer is false. And the reason for that is we have 2 different groupings of bats. There's the cave bats. Those are the hibernators. But then we also have bats called tree bats. And these are ones that will migrate. Some go all the way down to Mexico. Other ones migrate a little further south where they can still find food. All right, here's your next question. So, what do Minnesota bats eat? It's insects. Insects and occasionally other kinds of small arthropods like spiders. But why this is so important is because they're eating a lot of insects, sometimes up to half of their body weight in an evening. Something like a little brown bat eats about 1,200 mosquitoes an hour. That's a lot of insects. And why this is helpful is because those insects they're eating often are around farm crops. And that means the farmers can get by with less pesticides, and it makes the plants healthier. It makes the product healthier. The bats are getting food. They benefit everybody. All right, next question. So how are Minnesota bats finding their food? This might be one of those things you already know. They're using echolocation. Now, it makes sense. Our bats are ones that need to locate insects, so they use echolocation. Some kinds of bats, like fruit bats, don't need to hunt down their food the same way, so they don't use echolocation. But they'll send out a signal and listen to the signal that's coming back, and that helps them to understand things like where the object is, how big it is, which direction the thing is moving. Now, it can get confusing if there's a bunch of bats all in the same area. So what scientists have learned is that the pulse that they send out can be adjusted. Sometimes they'll change the frequency, they'll change how it goes so that they're not getting confused about hearing another bat's signal going out. They know it's their own signal going out and coming back to them, letting them know if there's food available or not. Now, what's interesting is what it could sound like. And there's different kinds of devices that are out there that help us to hear the sounds the bats are making, which we normally couldn't hear. So listen for a second. Those sounds were from a big brown bat, and this is what's called a spectrogram, or where it translates the sound into symbols to help you understand the length of the sound and the different parts to the sound that are there. Different species of bats produce different sounds, and by seeing it like this, it can help the scientists when they're listening to bat sounds they've collected to know what species were around. All right, so we've got all these different bats that are out there. How long does a bat live? Well, most bats could live 6 to 7 years, but some small bats can live a lot longer than that, which is sort of unusual because usually smaller mammals don't live as long. The bigger the mammal, the more years it'll last. But there was a case of a bat that was banded here in Minnesota. They banned bats just like they banned birds, and it was found to be 32 years old. I mean, that's remarkable that it's as long-lived as it is. All right, last question. Where can I learn more about bats? I've listed 3 different resources. The first one is the Bat Week official website with lots of different resources for people. And then the other 2 are more local. So there's the DNR's website page that talks about bats here in Minnesota. And then this past week, the DNR had one of its people do a presentation about bats of Minnesota, and you can see the YouTube video, and that's where I got some of my information today. So we've got some great information out there about bats. Learn a little bit more about them so that as you go into Halloween, you truly understand what bats are like. They're amazing, fascinating animals. So thanks for joining me for this episode of Nature to Go, and we'll talk to you again next time.